Hey, I'm Jackie Sloop. I'm the Interpretive Ranger here at Brinegar Cabin. And this year we've had a very, very special event happen. For the past 2 years we haven't been able to have the garden. And of course a garden is a kitchen garden is an integral part of what goes on in a high-ridge subsistence farm. If you don't have a garden, you don't eat. And this year our friends have stepped forward and volunteered to do the garden for us. They've done a wonderful, wonderful job. We have planted and they tend and keep the garden moving, and our visitors love it very, very much.
I'm Nancy Kish, and this is my husband.
I'm Dennis Trimble.
And there's another couple with us, Frankie and Mac Pittman, who are unable to be with us today, who have also been a very integral part of this. And it started with an idea, I guess, between Jackie and Joyce Spees, who's our director here of the Highlands chapter. And once we started talking about it and came over and looked at it, and Jackie had a lot of seeds for us, and we got to it, and it's really taken off. It's been a wonderful experience, and these are things that neither of us have ever seen in our gardens, because obviously it goes back decades, but it loves it here. And what better place to garden than to look out on the parkway and enjoy this beautiful scenery.
My friends group and my garden is really dear to my heart because it really helps me complete the interpretive story. We know that Caroline grew flax. She didn't necessarily grow it in her kitchen garden. She did have a field of flax, but we do have a patch of flax growing in our garden here, which is, as you see it right here. It's in its early stages. It will continue on through the summer and get to be about thigh high. We harvest that flax, dry it, and then when we're ready to process it, we go through the retting process, we dry it again, we hold it, and then we process that flax in order to do our program called From Field to Fiber. And it's difficult for children to imagine something growing in the garden that's eventually going to wind up being our clothing. And Caroline used this to spin a linen thread, warp her loom with that linen thread, used her sheep to spin a woolen thread, and then she wove the two together to make a special fabric called linsey woolsey. And that's a fabric that we hear referred to as homespun. A lot of Civil War uniforms were made out of that. But because of the remoteness of the area, ladies up here were still growing flax and still spinning and weaving linsey woolsey and well up into the 20s and the 30s. It was not unusual for women to grow flax. This is our little patch of buckwheat. Martin would have had more of a field of buckwheat. You can hear the bees working it, I hope. I don't know whether you can or not. I sure can, and I can certainly see them. Martin liked buckwheat honey, and we know that he had several hives of honey, so we always put buckwheat in our garden. It's a wonderful self-seeder, and back in the day, folks used the grain. It's actually a legume, and it sets the seed is ground into a flour. If you ever have an opportunity to have buckwheat pancakes, do so. They're really, really good, and if you want the true Southern Appalachian experience, you need to have some sorghum molasses on those buckwheat pancakes, and that'll give you the true flavor of what we grew up with in Southern Appalachia. This is the sorghum, and this is what makes the sorghum molasses, the syrup from this cane. We always plant a little bit of sorghum. This was one of their major sources of iron. The sorghum molasses is really, really very nutritionally packed with iron. You cook in your cast iron pots and eat a lot of buckwheat pancakes with sorghum molasses, you're in good shape. beans are an integral part of any southern Appalachian garden. We ate a lot of beans and taters and cornbread. Particularly fond of pole beans from an interpretive standpoint because I can do a complete preservation story. Many times the pole beans were strung on a string and allowed to dry or dehydrate, just like apples. Those would be called leather breeches, and they look like little tiny pairs of leather pants hanging. When I do a special program called Eating High on the Hog, we always take a look at leather breeches. They're reconstituted just like you would reconstitute a dried bean. If you're lucky and you go to a church homecoming in the area here or a special meeting, you may be offered some leather breeches. Mighty tasty, get you through a hard winter.
And some of the other aspects of the Friends, Dennis has adopted several overlooks, and once every couple of weeks he goes and makes sure they're clean and everything's picked up and does some trail maintenance. And so there's a lot of different aspects to being a member of this group, a lot of different options for how much you want to be involved or what capabilities you have, and just to be out here and be able to see what some good spirits and hard work can do makes it all worthwhile.